facilities and bases, 752 witnesses from the military, defense sector, and government agencies, and 121 UFO crash retrieval case documents.
Hello, and welcome back to High Vibe Aspirations. And in today's video, we're going to continue to talk about the whole UFO disclosure phenomena. Because this, guys, I strongly feel like we need to be paying attention to what's going on with this right now. Pay attention to all the details, all the evidence that's presented, all the different viewpoints and opinions, because this is going to be paramount for the things that are coming up soon. So without further ado, let's get right into the video.
We've dealt with the subject of UFOs on the channel a handful of times before, including episodes that looked at Project Blue Book and Area 51 in the 50s and 60s, the Tic Tac FLIR footage from 2004, and the Pentagon's report to Congress last year that led to the creation of a new Department of Defense sub-agency called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office that has the mission to investigate UFOs and other phenomena in the air, sea, and/or space and/or land. In recent weeks, David Grush, an Air Force veteran and former member of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, made headlines as he emerged as a so-called whistleblower with not.
So I didn't even know that was even an agency. So that's pretty good, I guess.
Knowledge of UFO crash retrieval teams, including the recovery of alien bodies and other shadowy government programs. But since 1993, the organization that's been persistently trying to shine a light on the UFO phenomenon more than any other is the Disclosure Project, headed by a man named Stephen Greer. Before Greer became a ufologist, he worked as an emergency room physician. After his second UFO encounter, he began to research how the US government was dealing with the possible existence of alien life forms. And in the process of that research, he started to grow a database of people who claimed to have also had encounters with UFOs. He founded the Disclosure Project as a nonprofit with the mission to make the White House, Congress, the Pentagon, and the general public aware of and concerned with what the organization labels as a crisis more serious than any military threat we're aware of. Earlier this week, Dr. Greer spoke at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and he started his remarks with why the Disclosure Project is ramping up their intensity now. And it's because what he calls official law, created over the last year or so, is that Congress has mandated that the Pentagon, specifically the intelligence community, research the UFO crisis and report back to them. Adopting that mandate for itself, this week the Disclosure Project handed both Congress and AARO at the Pentagon a list of 145 top-secret facilities and bases, 752 witnesses from the military, defense sector, and government agencies, and 121 UFO crash retrieval case documents. He also submitted stats like 122 vehicles have come down and 60 to 70 extraterrestrial vehicles have been recovered over the last 80 years. In company with Dr. Greer at this press conference were a number of whistleblowers, all with amazing stories to tell. Michael Herrera was a Marine Corps infantryman serving in the Philippines who claims to have stumbled across a UFO retrieval team in action. The team held him hostage for a time and then let him go with the threat of death if he said anything about what he saw. Stephen Digna Jr. was an Army sergeant in charge of range control when a wedge-shaped vehicle appeared without clearance, a situation he called very dangerous. After that, he and his wife encountered a vehicle next to a desert road, and as they approached, the vehicle emitted a beam that put his wife into stasis, a frozen state. D.C. Long was working with his father at Fort Bragg when he came across a DUM, which is an acronym for Deep Underground Military Base, and the next day, his father's business was...
Okay, so how many of you guys feel like there's a mixture of two things here? We have a mixture of military efforts to not only suppress this information, but to kind of confuse people about what they've experienced. Because I feel like that situation where him and his wife was on the road and his wife was hit with this beam and put into state of stasis, I think that might have been more I don't know, but my intuition says that was something that was military, and they were doing that to try to recall how much she has recalled, or maybe they're just trying to make it some type of confusion as to what their real experience was. I don't know, but I feel like there's a mixture of both. And that's why military intervention and actual real experiences and encounters, where you can kind of get confused about what you've experienced, and they can further suppress the real knowledge and the real facts and the real truth. Let's get back into it. You guys let me know what you think about that in the comments.
Mysteriously cleaned out, and he was left with nothing. And Eric Heckler was a contractor working for Raytheon at the South Pole who claims that the ice cube neutrino there is actually a multifaceted directed energy weapon and a faster-than-light communications facility. During his remarks, Heckler also asserted that the testing of that weapon caused earthquakes in New Zealand. I will say that whether their stories are believable or not, all of the witnesses came off as earnest and serious. None of them can be dismissed right off the bat as tinfoil hat types. Now, Dr. Greer puts UFOs into two basic categories, man-made and alien. And at the briefing, he showed a number of examples of the difference between the two, appearance-wise. He also counsels the government, particularly the Department of Defense, not to treat alien UFOs as inherently dangerous, which is something Hollywood and sci-fi novels have tended to do over the years. DoD tends to be a hammer that looks at everything else as nails, Greer said. We shouldn't look at everything as a threat. What can we do if we don't try to weaponize everything we don't understand? It's man-made UFOs that Greer views as the real threat. He frames the activities of those behind them as, quote, a shadowy, deep black operation being run outside the proper supervision of the president and Congress, end quote, and cites Eisenhower as the first commander-in-chief to lose control of these programs, and says no president has come anywhere close to having dominion over them since. He also says that Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater was on the trail at one point, but was cut out of the program by legendary Air Force General Curtis LeMay, who was himself also not fully aware of the activities of those developing man-made UFOs. Overall, Greer characterizes the Disclosure Project's activities as support for the constitutional government in regaining control. And that's a remarkable way to situate this so-called crisis, in that we normally think of the government hiding things from the public in a variety of ways. Black programs like the F-117, Delta Force, and SEAL Team 6 under the auspices of national security. But in this case, what Dr. Greer is asserting is that these deep black programs operate without any checks and balances, even those limited ones that traditional black programs have. And what's even more remarkable is he claims these programs have in their possession unsanctioned free energy technology, a zero-point quantum vacuum energy system that pulls energy out of the fabric of space and time. During the briefing at the National Press Club, Dr. Greer held up a piece of paper and scribed a line from corner to corner on it, saying, the line from A to B represents our current understanding of time and space. Then he folded the piece of paper in half and said that represents what a zero-point quantum vacuum energy system can do. Greer says that these technologies would have a huge revolutionary effect macroeconomically. The climate crisis, cross-border conflicts, and poverty would end overnight. But he warns there would be some losers: the oil industry, public utilities, nuclear power, wind, solar, surface roads. Eventually, all of those things would be obsolete. And for that reason, Greer claims the wealthy barons in each of those sectors, the power brokers, have suppressed the adoption of free energy systems and threatened those with awareness of those systems with no less than execution if they go public. And he also claims that the actions of man-made UFO programs are illegal and represent crimes against humans worldwide. And as a result, the Disclosure Project is launching a Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, better known as RICO, against corporations and individuals involved. At the briefing in D.C. this week, one of the Disclosure Project's lawyers, named Derek Garcia, outlined the extent of the alleged crimes these deep black organizations have committed. And they include treason, murder, mass murder, torture, and kidnapping, among a litany of other charges. The bottom line for the Disclosure Project is the secrecy around UFOs is the threat to national security, not the UFOs themselves. Dr. Stephen Greer left a medical career to dedicate his life to the pursuit of a greater understanding of the UFO phenomenon, and you have to respect that. However, I do think there are a couple of big unanswered questions. The first question is, how are these programs funded, and how are the folks involved compensated? Whistleblower testimony suggests that it wouldn't be government funded, so that leaves defense corporations like Raytheon, which was mentioned during the press briefing. But Raytheon, like most defense firms, is a publicly traded company with a CEO who reports to a board of directors. I think the idea that there would be billions of dollars of investment in UFO tech over decades with zero return is unrealistic, to put it mildly. Which leads to question number two. If a company like Raytheon is in possession of proprietary and disruptive technology that would render major sectors like oil, energy and transportation irrelevant, why would that company sit on it? Because of threats of execution from rival fat cats at the top of now irrelevant industries who stand to lose big when free energy is introduced? That would be like, say, Ford electing not to produce the Model T because they were threatened by companies that made leather horse bridles, or Apple holding back on the iPhone because they were threatened by touchstone phone manufacturers. That's not how commercial innovation works. There is too much money to be made with disruptive tech for legacy industries to hold it back. And if powerful execs threatened you with execution, why wouldn't you retain a lawyer and sue them for all they're worth? What do you think? Are UFOs man-made or otherwise real? And are they a greater threat to the US than Russia and China, as Dr. Greer said at the DC press conference this week? Let me know in the comments section below. All right, that'll do it for this episode. As always, if you're not a subscriber, become one so you don't miss anything on this and other topics going forward. And I'd love to meet you at Muchapalooza in Annapolis on July 15th, featuring a showcase set by my new band Danger Boy. Check the link for tickets in the...
All right, so there you have it. He brought some very interesting points about it disrupting a lot of very big, important, wealthy industries. And so there's definitely a motive here to keep these things suppressed. Even, I would say, I think that some of these larger corporations are very much aware of what exists here, like actual UFO entities, like real entities that are extraterrestrial, that have great power, great technology, and it's super important for them to suppress this information. It's just my thoughts. But let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments below. Give this video a like. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. And I look forward to chit-chatting with you guys later. Until next time. Bye-bye for now.